On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. One thing that's funny about stealth is it's kind of a secret, right? Like when it comes in, you don't really know what's coming in. You're beaming out radar, pew, 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 and nothing's coming back. Why? Because it's stealth. You don't see it. There's so many of us right now that are like, oh, I'm watching. We're like play-by-play action on what's going on. And the reality is none of us have a clue. Thankfully. Right? Because otherwise our government sucks, or this group of patriots suck at keeping things secret. So something major is being planned. Both sides are kind of calling it, ramping it up. Both sides are like, this is us. We're doing this. Yay. And that's fine. That's perfect. And if you think about it, that's how this should play out. There's a lot of information that's coming out, and I think a lot of it is meant to dissuade or cause us to be bummed. Like, oh, it's not going to happen. Right? There's so many of us that are putting a lot of power on this one day, right? Wednesday coming up. We're like, if it doesn't happen by noon Eastern, I don't know. I don't think that's true either. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I do believe something is in the works. I definitely also believe that this is not going to play out like any of us think. So I'm prepared for weird. I'm prepared for stealth. I'm prepared to have no freaking clue that this just happened, and then, right? And I think that's kind of where we're heading. Now, one side is like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? The other side's like, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that, it's meh, right? They're the ones that are putting out all this false info. They're the ones that are scared. We are unsure. There's a big difference between scared and unsure. A lot of us are like, it seems like something's going on. I swear I can feel it. It's like, there's something in the air. I can almost guarantee it. But will I put my neck on the chopping block and guarantee that I know what? No. None of us will. Because none of us know. Interesting, Biden's inauguration rehearsal was canceled after a propane tank exploded in a nearby homeless camp. You got to watch out for those homeless. Last I'd heard, most homeless carry RPGs and usually assault rifles. Yes, those homeless people are very particular about the weapons of choice. Yes. I heard they're very fond of the Armalite brand. Just saying. Of course not. Kidding. But still, this is kind of interesting. A little smoke coming out from the Capitol. There was an interesting little speech that was coming out. Careful, careful. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. And now all of a sudden, Biden's inauguration rehearsal was canceled. First off, come on, man. I mean, seriously, and I meant that intentionally, Biden, to speak in your language. Come on, man. Seriously. You suck. You could practice this 100 times. You're still going to jack it up, dude. You're still going to jack it up. If they say more than 4 words in a row when you're supposed to repeat them back, you're not going to be able to remember any of that. No chance in heck. No, not going to happen. So, something to keep in mind. Kamala Harris, interestingly, has resigned her Senate seat ahead of the inauguration, barely. And apparently it's going to go down 2 days before inauguration, I guess the 18th, which is today. As I resign from the Senate, these are her words, I am preparing to take an oath that would have me preside over it, Harris wrote in her resignation letter. As senator turned vice president, Walter Mondale once pointed out, the vice presidency is the only office in our government that belongs to both the executive branch and the legislative branch. Kind of scary if you think about it. A responsibility made greater with an equal number of Democrats and Republicans in the Senate. I don't really feel like it's an equal number. Maybe it will be once she goes, but it's a California seat, right? Pretty sure that's going to guarantee. But a lot of us were like, well, she hasn't resigned yet. She is. Think about it, though, from this standpoint, because a lot of people, I think, find some solace in this. Like, this means that they're ready to go. Now they're ready to kick it into Red 6, right? Like, they're going to kick it in now because she's finally resigned. I don't think she matters. I think ultimately, if this plays out anything like any of us are thinking it will, it doesn't matter if she resigns. She's going to be sort of fired, I think. I don't know what happens when you get arrested. I think it's firing. I'm not sure. But I think it would be more in line with that than so much like, no, I just decided I didn't want to be senator anymore. And we'll see how things play out. Who knows? I think there's a lot of misinformation being shared with us. Technical difficulties. Parler is back. Now, I think that's a bit of a stretch. Let's show you what Parler back means. Parler, Parler.com. Let's see what Parler.com gets us. Well, this site contains adult material. Oh, nice. Now we're going to Triple X. Parler. That's awesome. So we're making headway, folks. Now it actually resolves to something. Apparently it's porn. We're moving in the right direction, I guess. We'll see. We'll see. I am not one to label everything bad. But, I mean, literally, I'm surprised, actually. Literally, I checked yesterday, and it was just like, Parler, oops, something's not here. I think it was something along this technical difficulties. Now it seems like the right time to remind you all, both lovers and haters, why we started this platform. Now it's resolving to porn. Sure, it doesn't matter. Maybe just on my computer. But it seems it's a good time to remind you people that they are trying to shut down any other voices that matter. I've got a thing coming up here, I think. There's so many stories I've looked at. CNN's freaking out right now because YouTubers are pulling larger audiences than they are. CNN's freaking out right now because people are coming out and saying things that contradict their narrative. And it's making it really hard for them to do their jobs. Really hard. So Stelter is talking about a tech purge, and his little lib guess is pushing censorship in a major way. And I think it's important to point out, this picture is so funny with the way the tear looks. For any of you that have gross, sick minds, your mind might have went where mine is. It's just a money shot. But a lot of crazy things are happening. They are showing their hands to us. This is what the expected winning side is going to do. Now, again, I don't think that's the case. And I swear to God, God must be controlling things, because you couldn't plan this better. You couldn't say, hey, Deep State, do me a favor. Show me how horribly corrupt and gnarly and nasty you really are. Show me where you're planning on taking the nation now that you've got the presidency in your back pocket. What do you have in mind? And I swear to God, you could not have pictured it better. You couldn't have made it better. I think it's pretty incredible. Let's check it out.
Information crisis that has been perpetuated, in my view, by platforms like the one we're used to work, Facebook, as well as Twitter and others.
It's really hard, because what's happening is people are able to seek out the information that makes them feel good. That is what's happening, is that people have so much choice now. They can choose what their news sources are. They can choose what influencers they want to follow. And they can try to seal out anything that helps them question that. And I think that gets to a really core issue with how our freedoms as Americans and the way we've treated press freedom in the past is being abused by these actors.
So wait, hang on. The people that are telling us bad information, that are telling us fake news, are upset with the fact that deep state actors, as their words would say, are now able to spew whatever craziness they want. And unfortunately, this craziness that's so radically crazy that no one and their mother would believe, except a lot of people believe it. So we need to shut this down. We need people to understand how dangerous this said free speech is. Now understand, all these crazy people on the left, all these crazy stepmoms like mine out there flowing around, they're looking at this going, yeah, shut down anybody. Shut down my stepson. Shut down his ability to talk about this stuff, because people shouldn't be able to talk about it. You shouldn't have a different opinion than what's going on, even though there is evidence to suggest some of the BS you guys are saying is crap. But that's okay. No, that's okay. I understand. Your ratings are suffering.
We have given a lot of leeway, both in the traditional media and on social media, to people to have a very broad range of political views. And it is now in the great economic interest of those individuals to become more and more radical. And I think that
anyone that disagrees with mainstream media, radical. Just keep that in mind. Again, this is how Hitler did it, right? This is how they label the enemy. Just because we disagree, we have a differing opinion, but we're radical. We're so radical. Now, granted, in the 80s, if something was radical, man, it was cool. But now they've even co-opted that word and taken the sheer grooviness out of the word radical. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not right. I'm telling you.
One of the places you can see this is on the fact that you now have competitors to Fox News on their right, OANN
Yes.
and Newsmax, which are carried by all the major cable networks, who are trying to now outflank Fox on the right, because the moment Fox introduced any kind of realism into their reporting, immediately a bunch of people chose to put themselves into a sealed ecosystem. And they can do that both on cable, they can do it online, and that becomes a huge challenge of figuring out how do you bring those people back into the mainstream of fact-based reporting and try to get us all back into the same consensual reality. And
can you? Is that possible? Seems like that's an open question.
It's hard. I mean, I think we got to do a couple things. One, there needs to be an intentional work by the social media companies collaborating together to work on violent extremism in the same way they worked on ISIS.
AKA censorship.
When I started at Facebook in 2015, the number one challenge from a content perspective was the abuse of social media by the Islamic State.
So they are now comparing us to the Islamic State. First off, Islamic State, best that we've been able to figure out thus far, is actually a deep state army. And in fact, the second Trump got into office, able to shut down ISIS completely. Though, they're the reasons we have to shut down free speech, right? The deep state army having the ability to bring people into their crazy deep state army, reason to shut down everybody else. So this is how the game's played, folks. Free speech, the only way you can really, truly fight free speech is with more free speech. Allow people to debate these topics. Allow people to talk about the crazy. And at radicalization, that's another show. Yeah, there should be limits and whatnot. But frankly, folks, any of you that just had that thought pop into your head, you're a far cry from craziness. You're claiming a bunch of people are radical because the news keeps telling you that. But if you follow a lot of this stuff, they're just religious folks that want a better life, that want freedom, that may be served in our country and don't get any respect. But for some reason, that's not okay for you.
There was a collaboration between the tech companies and between the tech companies and law enforcement to make it impossible for them to use the internet to recruit and radicalize mostly young Muslim men at the time around the world. Now we're talking about domestic audience in the United States. And the challenge is going to be partially that, ISIS did not have a domestic constituency in the United States Congress. But there is over half of the Republicans in Congress voted to overturn the election. And there will be a continual political pressure on the companies to not take it seriously. So I think
half of the Republicans actually did what they were supposed to do and tried to overturn the election because they actually looked at all the facts and evidence that suggested something of a shenanigan kind of thing went on. But we've got to watch out for that radicalization. These people that are waking up. That's what he's talking about. Radicalization, awakened masses. We have to stop those people that are figuring out what the bloody you-know-what is going on.
First, you have to focus on those violent extremists, and those companies have to be brave in that way. And second, we have to turn down the capability of these conservative influencers to reach these huge audiences. There are people on YouTube, for example, that have a larger audience than daytime CNN, and they are extremely radical and pushing extremely radical views. And so it's up to the Facebooks and YouTube.
Extremely radical views by a group of people that want freedom, treat people with respect, and thus far, minus the Capitol incident, which, by the way, was very tame relative to the crap you all are guilty of. Look at 100 weeks and 100 days in Portland and the violence and destruction and death and destruction of private property and people's businesses and livelihood. But watch out for those crazy people on the right that are talking about it. Yeah, we're the wild ones. You guys burned down cities. We just talk about it. Yeah, we're the wild ones.
YouTube's in particular, to think about whether or not they want to be effectively cable networks for disinformation. And then we're going to have to figure out the OANN and Newsmax problem. That these companies have freedom of speech, but I'm not sure we need Verizon, AT&T, Comcast, and such to be bringing them into tens of millions of homes.
These companies have freedom of speech, but we don't want to give it to them because they're way more popular than we are. That's what's being said. It is really hard to watch a CNN thing that was only 3.5 minutes long. I got into 3 minutes of it, and that took, 7 minutes? Because I can't freaking handle these guys. Well, on a similar standpoint, Apple's Tim Cook is giving Purge a game away. This is how silencing speech works. Folks are freaking telling us what's going on. And my ultimate favorite, Chris Wallace, he's the one exception. He's not an exception, but he's the one person I have to remind myself, Dan, you don't hate anybody.
Big tech has made a terrible mistake and very, very bad for our country.
Big tech is not monolithic. You know, there's several companies, they do different things. For us, we're always trying to do the right thing.
Cook decided the right thing for Apple was to suspend the conservative-leaning social media platform Parler from its App Store due to some users' violent posts.
First off, Parler was not what started the revolt on the 6th. That was Facebook. That's given information now. And again, this is all about control. This is all about not being allowing of people to have opinions outside of the controlled opinion. Twitter, Facebook, these guys are all part of the controlled opinion. And they cannot allow people like us to just start talking and sharing our crazy. Because otherwise we'll say stuff that disagrees with people like Chris Wallace.
Big tech restricting speech.
We have an app store that has about 2 million apps in it, and we have terms of service for these apps. We obviously don't control what's on the internet, but we've never viewed that our platform should be a simple replication of the internet. We have...
That is exactly what it means to edit what the internet states. When you don't want people to just see what's on the internet and you feel it's your job to filter that for me, rather than letting me just see it and be like, wow, that's a crazy story, I don't want to watch that, you're deciding what I can see. That is what a publisher does. Just saying.
Rules and regulations, and we just ask that people abide by those.
How did you decide to balance free speech with objectionable content?
We looked at the incitement to violence that was on there. And
incitement to violence. All they have to do is say incitement to violence over and over. And we'll present over and over evidence how Trump said peacefully walk over there over and over. But all they have to do is say there was an incitement to violence. And then all of the people out on the left, all of my crazy left-leaning friends, all of a sudden, dude, they're inciting violence. That's why they had to shut Parler down. Well, have you ever logged into Parler and checked out anything? No. Do you have a Parler account? No. But why do you think they're inciting violence? Because that's what they told me?
We don't consider that free speech and incitement to violence has an intersection.
What about the argument that by taking Parler off Apple, in addition to what other companies are doing, that you're just driving these people, these views further underground?
Well, we've only suspended them, Chris, and so if they get their moderation together, they would be back on there.
Cook.
If they figure out how to basically silence people, we'll get their shizzle together. That's basically what he's saying. Nice, nice. Gotta love that. And again, I just want to say, people are waking up. You can shut down the communication all they want, and it's not going to stop people from waking up. And we'll find ways to communicate. Doesn't even have to be social media. We'll go back to the old days if we have to. Heck, we'll do what Trump did with Kim Jong-un, and we'll write letters. Oh, no. We won't mail them, though, because we can't trust the post office. Come on now, let's be serious. We saw what happened in the election. But I'm just saying, we'll do all sorts of other fun things. So, yeah, this is what's happening, folks. Time to wake up. Now, something that's interesting, and I'm not saying anything at all. I'm just pointing out a story that came out recently. But apparently, because of so many adverse reactions to this new Moderna vaccine, I think it's very important to specify which of the two vaccines. But California's temporarily stopping the injections of this. I guess they're having a lot of people that are having very strong allergic reactions to Moderna's safety, I guess. It's a specific lot. It's a specific batch that was made that sucks. So just saying, don't take it. I don't know. The batch that's out, they're not going to let you take it. But if you're able to get the bad batch, I would say, hey, is that the bad batch? And then be like, yeah, that's the bad batch. And be like, I don't want that. Thank you. I'll come back tomorrow when the good batch is here. So again, A lot of discussions have happened. Apparently the 17th was the big day that they were worried about all the Patriots showing up at the Capitol. Maybe because it's a weekend and most Patriots have jobs. That might be why. But Patriots, don't fall for the DC trap. Do not show up to Biden's electoral theft, inauguration, tomato, tomato. Do not show up to this and cause problems. Seriously, stay home. Leave your weapons at home for sure. If you're going to be one of these people that has to go to a Capitol, leave your weapons at home. Do not go to one of these places where they're trying to goad you, where they're trying to get you to go and make a bad decision. Don't do it. Not good, not worth it. Please don't. And again, super important. If anything's going to happen, even if everything sucks and Biden gets inaugurated on Wednesday, do not freak out. There is other ways things are going to play themselves out. Not necessary. One thing I want to pull out, and this is, again, something that's used against us frequently. And I want to give some context around a number such as this. Hey, poll, FYI, 54% of all Americans, 54% of everybody sees other people in America, that means you, sees other people in America, that's you, as the greatest threats to the way of life that we've ever seen. The only way we can stop this huge, ginormous threat is to get rid of you. You. We got to stop you. Now, I want to point out something. This is CBS. To my understanding, there's CNN and there's MSNBC. They're kind of neck and neck, I think, roughly, in the whole ratings game. And then there comes CBS, and then way at the end is Fox. Obviously, Newsmax at the top, and then OAN is up there somewhere, right? This is CBS. Tiny agency. Now, granted, it's where Catherine Herridge is at. That's awesome. Yay, Catherine. We love you. You've done a lot of great things. Been quiet lately, I think. At least I haven't seen anything you've done lately. But of this teeny little swath of the public, which, happens to be predominantly Democrat, of this tiny little group of people, only 54% of these people that are left-leaning already, 54% of these people that are already left-leaning, probably already hate Trump, 54% of those people actually think other people in America are the problem. So what that actually relates to in the big picture, and I'm making numbers up here, but probably not too terribly far off, since their ratings suck, that's probably the equivalent about, 12, 13% of the total population thinks you're the problem. Like, literally. Not nearly even close to 54% of the entire population. In fact, probably, if we're looking at real numbers, over 54% of the people voted for Trump. So, right, just from that standpoint, the numbers don't really add up. Again, they're going to portray all sorts of things. They're going to put numbers in front of your face. These numbers don't mean jack diddly do. Armored Humvee stolen from military base ahead of planned armed protest at state capitals. This is fascinating. I don't know what the hell, okay, I'm going to say just a couple things that popped into my head when I saw this. One, are they just trying to say, this is how bad the radicals are? They stole a Humvee. They're willing to steal a Humvee. I don't even know where to go with that. Okay, that sucks. That's not cool. That's wrong. I'll come out and say that. So far, nobody's been killed with it, thank goodness. But stealing government equipment, not cool. But there's the other side of it where I'm like, I swear to God, it seems like this is a deep state article saying, see? Look how dangerous they are. You mean how they stole one vehicle? One vehicle. I've seen pictures and videos of trains going by and they got hundreds of these things on them. One disappeared. You sure you didn't just park it in the wrong place? Right? Maybe it was a bad valet. Maybe you lost the coupon. You're like, I don't even know what spot the Humvee is. It's like, well, how many freaking Humvees do you have in your parking lot? And you'd be like, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people in from the National Guard right now. So I'm just saying, I don't believe anything. That's part of my problem. Similar story on the same vein, if you will. Giuliani says he's not going to be a part of the Trump impeachment defense team. Yeah, because it's not going to happen. Again, there's talk whether or not McConnell's going to let it happen. Lindsey Graham's like, Schumer, you should try to stop this, which, again, too little, too late, Lindsey, I think, because I'm almost 100% sure after everything's played out, almost 100% sure you are actually a deep state. I had my suspicions that you were deep state early on, but after your huge amount of silence during all this fun that we've been going through, yeah, pretty sure that you're deep state. Now all of a sudden you're like, hey, don't forget me. I want to be okay too. Well, I don't know about that, buddy. That being said, yeah, Giuliani is like, no, I'm not going to be a part of it because it's not going to happen. It won't matter. It will be irrelevant. First off, if by chance they vote on this Tuesday, then there's no reason to have an attorney because they're probably not going to see any evidence, much like the House, right? So what's the point? Makes sense. Two, if they do actually vote for it on Tuesday, all right, well, again, doesn't matter. But if they don't vote on Tuesday and it happens after that, well, Trump's not the president anymore. And you really technically can't impeach somebody who's not in office, can you? And it's true. A lot of legal scholars have talked about this. If you're not actually in office, what the hell are we impeaching you for? Interesting. FBI is releasing photos of suspects in beating of officer, planting of pipe bomb on January 6th. Now, he's not wearing a bunch of Trump clothing. He's actually dressed a little more nefarious, without a doubt. And he's even got gloves on. Granted, it was cold. But this, I think, is more of a demonstration that, hey, we know what's actually going on, and we're letting we the people know. Now, of course, obviously the media keeps trying to blame this on Trump. But the fact of the matter is, FBI knows about these. FBI's probably caught some of these guys already. Now, whether these are Trump supporters or not, what they've done is bad. Period. Don't care. So, for all you that are Democrats, be like, hey, he's probably a Trump supporter. Okay, I still think this is bad. I'm glad they caught him. Or, hey, guess what? If you're a Democrat and you're so willing to throw the book at a Trump supporter, just understand it's possible and likely that this is more of an Antifa person or someone on your side. Just saying, not necessarily Trump supporter. Could be someone on your side. Just saying. 2,000 National Guard troops in D.C. sworn in as Special Deputy U.S. Marshals. Basically means they've got all sorts of powers. This deputization gives the Guardsmen temporary, limited law enforcement authority pertaining specifically to the safety and protection of the inauguration and related events, said the U.S. Marshals. That basically makes them cops, for lack of a better way to put it. Now, that could be all sorts of things. That could be spun any number of ways. But it definitely ties into the crazy that we've been talking about. Again, a lot is going on. A lot is going on. And we're not necessarily being given any legitimate information. In fact, it's weird as over the past few days, this is kind of the darkest time I've seen in the media. There's less speculation. Even some of the people that are loud normally are being quiet right now, probably because there's not a lot to share. Monkey Works pops into mind. He hasn't made a video in a couple days, probably because there's nothing to show. And I know a lot of these people don't want to come out and say what they think at this point. No one knows. We don't know. And some people are afraid to be wrong. I'm talking about a movement and moving people. I don't really think there is a wrong or right. I know people are waking up to something that we're going to experience, some sort of experience coming soon that is going to affect a lot of us in a very unique way. How this plays out, I don't know. Is this the final bout? Might be. I swear it seems like this is something they've planned. I believe that's very possible. All the evidence would suggest, the way things have played out thus far would suggest, the way Trump typically handles things would suggest, and the art of war and all that nonsense would also suggest. I don't know for sure, and I shouldn't. You shouldn't. None of us should. What we should do is pay attention to what's going on. Make sure our hearts are open when people can and do start to change their minds, when they can and do start to see what's actually going on. Make sure we stay home and do not make ourselves part of this riffraff that's going to be at the Capitals. And if you are going to be part of the riffraff, leave your weapons at home. Do not bring those. Do not be a part of that. That will damage you, will not help the cause, and every single one of us in the cause will kick you to the curb. we will happily throw you under the bus, back the bus back over you, and then drive it once more over you. Because we're not okay with that. Stay home. This is not the place for heroics. This is not the place for a small group of crazy. Trust me, there's something way larger going on, be it for the good guys or the deep state. But either way, you're going to get in the way and you're going to get churned up like a bad bit of butter. There's some good alliteration. Run with that. Remember, united we are strong. We the people. That's what this has been about. That's what this is still about. It's about all of us. The big picture. Where we go one, we go all. It's On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.